want to welcome everyone here to the first of the lead gen talks that we're going to be giving. As Shane mentioned, this is we'll be presenting some of the work that Sasha and I have been working on. Sasha being largely the brains behind a lot of the testing initiatives and all of the developing things, and I'm more of the artsy side of things. I do all the words. That's what and so together I make the words. She makes them into brilliant tests. And together we've come up with some results that we're keen to share with you today. And we're going to be focusing on some landing page tests that we have done. I will go ahead now and share my screen. Here we go. And I should be looking at, says split testing reveals. Is that, we all on board?
It is.
Hey, wonderful. Okay. I am, just to get a temperature check, I'm seeing a lot of new faces, but just by any measure of audible, if you've got your mic on or if you want to move your hands or in the chat, is there anyone here in this chat who was at our previous summit in December and may have heard my talk on story arc copywriting? Doesn't sound like, all right. Either way, I'm going to recap it anyway, and then we're going to get into some details. So that is where I'm going to start. Pardon me. So before I just address that, the initiative of this test is really about this hypothesis that I have in regard to copywriting, and that is that all copywriting and all copy that we want to present on websites, the best way to do that is in a traditional story arc. That is the way that humans in all cultures, that is the way that we like to receive information from the dawn of time. This is from, we're looking at cave drawings to biblical references, all of our things. That's how we like to receive information, in a very traditional sort of 3-act story arc. And oftentimes when I see landing pages, I see them very design driven, and I see great features. I see some great quick hitting features of the school. I see some excellent things that maybe a testimonial, some things that they want to highlight, but it's not organized in a way that invites the reader in and allows them to follow and gather all of that information in a natural way, the way that we would read a story. Your eyes are kind of going all over the place, and it's not, we're not leading them through the journey. We're expecting the prospect to do a lot of work themselves, to kind of pick up all these valuable pieces and then order them in a way that makes sense and put them into a narrative themselves. So this testing arc initiative, what we propose is to do that heavy lifting for your prospect themselves, lead them through it, meet them where they are, bring them through that story. So I'll tell you a little bit. I'll show you this. Will I? There we go. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that the landing page should be written as a classic story arc. So when we get to the page, the questions that a prospect will be asking themselves when they first hit a page: where am I? What can I do here? Why should I do that? That's no different than the opening scenes of a story or the first pages of a good book that you're trying to get into. That's where we need to get that who's our protagonist, what is going on here. And that heavy lifting is done by things like your logo, by your hero image, by a headline, and your call to action. Those things should immediately tell me where I am. So if I'm at an Enrollment Resources Academy page, I'm going to see an Enrollment Resources logo. I'm going to have a great headline that tells me about the school and why I should get into it. I know immediately, great, the scene is set. These are our opening images. If it's a movie, that type of thing. This first paragraph, then we get into our first, what I'm calling here on our plot point. This is where, this is very crucial. This is the beginning. This is your first scene. Again, if you're opening a book, this is your first chapter. This is what's hooking you. This is what's getting you in. If you opened up a book and you were to read a story and it started, like, just to pick a classic fairy tale or something, if I open a Hansel Gretel and I open it up and they're eating a house, I'm going to be totally lost. Why would they? I wouldn't even understand that the house was made of candy or a witch or any of these things. And if I'm being me, I'd probably stop reading, because it's asking too much of me. And I am a busy gal. I got a lot going on, So that first intro paragraph on a landing page, we want to be talking to them. We want to be inviting our prospect in. This is where we're talking, as you can see here, we're talking about character traits of what makes us successful professional in the particular field that we're trying to market there. So we can ask the prospect, do you see yourself here? Are you, let's say, if you are, do you enjoy working with people if it's that type of field? Do you enjoy working with your hands if it's that type of field? That type of thing. So they can be nodding along, answering these questions. Hey, I am like that. That does sound like me. I am artistic, or I am analytical, or these types of things. Uh, and we're appealing to the career. You'll notice here in this first plot point, I haven't mentioned anything about the school. We've set that in our opening scene. We've let them know that this is a school with our logo and some of our branding and things. But here we're talking just specifically to the prospect. We're just inviting them in. We're setting the point. It's not until we move along in the story, we're moving along to the second point, we're getting down into maybe the meat, sort of the middle part of your landing page. That's when we start. We're still talking career stuff. We're talking about career outlook stuff now. We're talking a little more nitty gritty. So this is not as much the emotional characteristic stuff. These are what does this career look like? Can I get a job in this field? What are some industry trends in this field? What are some employment data? You can see here, we're in the middle of this story, and we've still not really tied in the school point. We're still talking to this prospect where they're at. We're talking to them about them. We're talking about where they're at in their life, getting them excited about this career. At that point, now in the rising action, now we're coming to the climax, right? These kids have, again, we're going back to Hansel and Gretel. The kids are in a pot now. It's really heating up. This is where we bring in the school. So we've done the emotional work here of getting them excited about the career. Now it's time to explain, hey, how do you get there though? Great. So you are analytical, or you do like working with people, or you are these things. And this career looks like it's good in your area. There's some industry trends that are exciting. There's some employment data here that you've gotten excited about. How do we get there now? And that's when we bring in some information about your school. So that's where we're talking social proof. So that's where we get some great testimonials. That's when we can talk about how specifically your school can help get them there. So sure, they know that they need to go to a school. This is where we're putting in those specifics of why your school. So these are those great features. These are when we're talking about small classes, or we're talking about the specific benefits of your instructors, or the community atmosphere at your school and how that's going to help them. So when we built that story and we've built it properly, then we can get to, what in story terms would be the denouement, or here, now what does that mean? How can the school help you? We reinforce what we've seen here, and then we move them into the next step. So we've moved them down, again, this very traditional sort of story arc now. If they're the hero of this story, we have moved them along from at the start of the page, where maybe they're sort of interested in this and they come along on this whole journey. And by the end of the page, we can let them know, hey, it's time, let's take some action. We move them into those next steps, call to action. So that's a very sort of brief overview of what this landing page story arc, classic story arc overview looks like. And as I say, I talked about this in our last summit. And what I want to show today is it actually in action. So yes, this is, sort of the theory of it. And I'm going to show you a test now of where we have implemented this. So what we used is we took an existing landing page, and I wanted to just apply this classic story arc copywriting to that page and see if we could get a lift on that page when we edited the copy this way. So here I'm just showing off now the results before I give you the specifics of the actual test. What we're looking at here is the test, the treatment. Again, this is Sasha's great work on the back end, making these tests happen. And you can see, so it was a cosmetology page. I'm thinking about cocktails, pardon me. Cosmetology page. This is our control, this landing page here, and this is our test version. What we're looking at here, not only were we looking at conversions, but also this engagement piece. So you can see, again, I'm going to show you the specifics of the page, but when we did this, when we took the existing copy, which was a little bit of a dog's breakfast, kind of, again, that information, good points, but not organized in a narrative fashion, not organized in the way that I would propose is the way that we want information as humans, the way that we want to consume it. It's a little out of order. So our out of order page and then our story arc page, you can see that we had a 37% lift in conversion, which, you know, is obviously a clear win. Now, this is the element that I'm the most excited about. And this is where we're measuring engagement and what that means. So obviously these are when we say a conversion, this means this is a form filled out. This is a lead gathered, 37% increase in leads, over 100% increase in engagement. And when we say engagement, that just means where the prospect has clicked anywhere on the page. And there's obviously going to be an immense correlation between these two numbers. So this engagement piece is that's just exactly what it sounds. That's how engaged the prospect is on the page. So what I would compare these to is this page is a little bit this existing page with this 11% engagement. We're looking at that's like your kind of Hallmark movie. This one with this level of engagement, this is more like Oscar fair type movie. I'm going to be honest, I have watched hundreds more Hallmark movies than I have Oscar fair movies, but I haven't really seen any of them because mostly I'm going to be on my phone the whole time. It's kind of just background noise. That's sort of what the equivalent of this existing page is versus this page with a little more meat on it. Sasha, you're on the line yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Yeah, can you, if there is anything that you want to add about that engagement piece? I know you are the one that's doing the measures of those clicks and things like that.
Yeah. So, like Katie pointed out, well, in this particular instance, with the testing software we're using, this is measuring clicks. You'll also see this measure, I think, in your Google Analytics accounts. So it's like clicks or scrolls or time on page or some combination of all of those. And we started measuring engagement as a secondary goal tracked pretty much with all of our split tests now, because what we've noticed, and of course it makes sense, as engagement goes up, conversion rate will generally go up. So it's always a good thing just to track in the background. And it also helps us in the sense that even when we get a test where results are inconclusive, like and they're even, but you're seeing engagement is going up. So sorry, when I say results are even, I mean conversion rate is even, but you see engagement is up or down on one of the variation. That's kind of a trigger to let you know that you're onto something, and it kind of warrants future tests. So it's always a good thing and an easy thing to track as a secondary goal when you are doing split testing, or even like when you're looking at your Google Analytics accounts and wondering like, why are people, bouncing from this page or whatever. And even though here and a lot of testing software, we're just tracking it as a number, there's a much better way to get like the details of what is actually going on, like what are prospects doing more of, what are they clicking more on, are they getting further down the page? And you can just easily do that by setting up a heat map or a scroll map, or both ideally, on your test variations, and that'll show you exactly like percentage wise, how far are users getting down the page in each variation, or 50% of users on this variation are clicking on this button, while only 20% on the other variation are clicking on the same button. And that'll tell you kind of what content around that engagement piece users are finding more engaging. And it's just a clue into, what's working and what's not on your pages, essentially.
Yeah, so thinking about those heat maps and a scroll map, it's almost like having a focus group, a secret focus group for every prospect that ever enters your page. It's as if you were able to ask them, hey, at what point did you bow out of this page? You can literally just see it on your heat map. You can see how long they're scrolling. You can see what aspects of the page that they're taking a look at. And as Tessa mentioned, as this engagement number goes up, naturally we see the conversion number go up because we're not bouncing off. We're not. And my hypothesis about a high bounce number, as I mentioned, this goes back to the story writing or the story arc theory here, is that oftentimes when we see a high bounce, it's because we're asking too much of the prospect. We're asking them to do too much of the heavy lifting, asking them to write the story. We're putting all the information in part of it. We're giving them all the chapters, but they're out of order, and it makes it a complex story, and it makes them have to do that. And I mean, we all have a lot going on. Who wants to be doing the heavy lifting on that when we could just do it for our prospects? So I'm going to get into some details of this particular test now. I'm going to show you some slides. This one, obviously you can't see the details of this page. This is just a bird's eye view of our control and our variation. Birds love landing pages. They don't talk about it a lot, but they do. So you can see, I only show you this image just to demonstrate that from a design point of view, these pages are not wildly different. You can see we're using many of the same elements. There's some small design changes just to echo the copy and how we wanted to present it, but this isn't a radical redesign from a graphics standpoint. This really is the lion's share of the work here is from a copy perspective and how we want to be presenting it. So again, that's in control on the left and our test version on the right. So I'm now going to present two little snapshots from this page. I'm not going to tell you which one is the control and which one is the test version, and we're going to just talk about sort of what's going on those two pages. And this is the element again, and this is just my artsy storyteller heart at play here, but for me, the most significant piece of copy on a landing page is that opening paragraph. That is the piece where we are inviting them in. That is where we're setting the stage. And that's how we're setting up the rest of this story. So that's what I want to take a look at on both of these pages. So I'm going to tell you, so one of the versions, here we go. I've got this version A up. And if you'll indulge me, I'll just read it out here. This is the first paragraph on one of the versions. You want to be the next big thing. You have the raw beauty talent, but you need the technical skills and business training to get there. At Enrollment Academy, you'll be able to market yourself effectively with our program utilizing leading beauty techniques. So that's one of them. Again, I'm going to show you just another alt version, and we will take a look, and then I'm going to have y'all guess which one is which one won, which one is the control, which is the test. So this is just another version of that. Again, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read this out. If you have a passion for beauty, creating memorable styles, and helping others feel great about the way they look, and are ready to consider a successful future in cosmetology, you're in the right place. Get into a vibrant professional salon spa environment and get hands-on, expert-led training to launch a rewarding cosmetology career in less than 1 year. All right, I'm going to put it to you guys now in the chat. You can shout it out if you want, but I would love if you would weigh in on which version of this, version A, the one we just saw, you're the next big thing, or version B, you have a passion for beauty. Which one of these do you think was the winner? Oh, get some answers coming in here. B, we're getting Adrian, Shane Sparks thinks B. All right. Ooh, Terry saying B. Oh, Gary saying A. Emmanuel, we got B. I mean, wonderful. Okay, so we got a couple of votes. We got most of you voting for B. We got Gary, Dr. Gary coming in on the vote A, and I think Gary, you just are a bit more of an extraordinary human than most I've ever met. So the copy about being the next best thing perhaps appeals to you more than most. And the winner is actually version B. It is a version B. That's the big thing. I want to go back here to version A, and it's not so much about the next big thing. It's this copy. When I think about this line, so you'll be able to market yourself effectively with our program using leading beauty techniques. That's a great feature, being able to market yourself as a professional, particularly in cosmetology. A lot of cosmetologists work as independent contractors. That's a great feature. It's way too early, though. Marketing yourself effectively, that's something we definitely want to see on this page, but we haven't set the stage yet. We haven't invited them in. That's some chapter 3 or 4 stuff that we'll want to get into, but this is where we want to be speaking to them. We're inviting them in. We are setting the stage. Again, I don't know that this is necessarily intuitive when we're looking particularly from a design perspective. When we're just thinking about how a whole page looks, we're just thinking where we can get the information in, and we're putting our features. We're doing a lot of bullet points, that kind of thing. I know there's I see a huge emphasis when I look at landing page on a like empty on white space and that kind of thing, which is important, of course, for your eye. We need it to be easy to read, but the content is still king here. We still need to invite people in, and we need to be meeting them where they are. So that's why this in again for this hypothesis, that's why this intro paragraph is more successful. And okay, so again, this is just a control and a test. Just my screen's a little small, so you'll have to remember this one on the left here is control, and this one on the right is our test version. Very essentially, these two sections say almost the same thing. They have the same information. So you can see down here where it says sculpting and haircutting, sculpting. These are just the sections where we're saying this is brass tacks. These are the actual skills when it comes down to it. These are the skills that these programs are going to teach you. But if you take a look at our control version, the subhead for this for the actual skills that we're going to learn in that one are master the technical skills with our comprehensive hands-on curriculum. And here in our test, I've used you'll learn. Now, again, comprehensive hands-on curriculum, that's a great feature. Those are elements I definitely want to hit. But also, that's not what a subhead is for. A subhead's not really to get the content. A subhead is to tell your reader, is this next section relevant for you? As we're scanning down a page, particularly when we're on mobile, we are now accustomed to being able to scan a page quite quickly and narrow in on the elements of that page that we want to read. This is asking a lot of your reader to parse out what each one of these words mean and then what they mean together versus the simplicity of you'll learn. And then we know that these are all the skills that I'm going to learn in that. Another element you can see here is that we've broken up the text. So it's not necessarily that this information here on our control version, it's not that this information is bad, but it is presented here in a bit of a daunting way. Again, particularly on mobile, you're going to see a big wall of text. That's going to be harder to scan to pick out those areas that are relevant to you. And that's where we're using subheads, again, very much like chapter titles. If we're going back to this story metaphor, that is this chapter relevant to you? So if you can break up this content into digestible chunks and give very simple headlines, subheads, that's going to encourage your reader to keep going each time. I don't know, I'm a short story reader if we're talking books and things, or I don't know if you've had this experience, you're maybe reading a book before bed and you think, I'll just read to the next end of the chapter, but then you count how many pages, right? Because you're like, well, I'm never going to make it to the end of this chapter if it's 30 pages, but the end of the chapter is 2 pages, I'm going to make it. And then if that chapter is written effectively, there's probably something compelling you to want to know what happened in the subsequent chapter. So that's the way to think about breaking up these sections of content that way. There's another element to these pages, and this is something I also don't see very often on competitor pages or on pages that I see submitted, and that's centering your prospect. Again, if I'm going to hammer home this story arc metaphor, your prospect is the protagonist. That's who the star of this story is. Even if the page is about, a cosmetology program or culinary program, or it's about your school, even a general page that's just about get to know us about your school, the school is not the story. The prospect is the story. If I'm the prospect, I'm the story. I'm the protagonist of this story. I'm the main character here. And it's my journey of whether or not I'm going to go to the school, whether I'm going to become a chef, whether I'm going to become an automotive technician, whatever that is. So I've got 2 sentences up here. And these are not great sentences. They're pretty simple. I wouldn't give either of these sentences necessarily an A, but they're just examples of the same information presented in 2 different ways. The first in a school-centered way, and this is the type of writing that I see on most landing pages, school or not. At Enrollment Resources Academy, our instructors are all industry experts. So again, it's a great feature. It's a great feature of the school, and it's a very typical type sentence that I would see on a lot of landing pages. That same information can be presented in a way where the prospect is the center of that. So instead of, again, here at Enrollment Resource Academy, we have this, that same information can be turned around as a student at Enrollment Resources Academy. You'll learn directly from industry experts. So psychologically, you're already putting the prospect, you're asking them to use their imagination and put themselves in the place of someone who is already a student at that school. And again, it's the same information, just presented from a prospect centered way. And so that is one little sort of test or task that I would say anyone here on this call, you can take a look at your own copy. Almost every sentence, likely on a landing page or in any of your website material, that sort of thing, can be rewritten very simply with this little inversion, and to make the student the center of the story. So here, this is a sort of a quick summary of these are 5 very quick takeaway tips to do this story arc copywriting. Start at the beginning of the story. Meet your prospect where they are. One of the things I also see done on a lot of landing pages, and I attribute a little bit to a lack of imagination, not employing that imagination to remember what it was like before you worked at the school. Prior to getting into this career, I used to work in a retail situation. And they noticed in that situation, there were 2 types of employees. There was employees who remembered what it was like before they worked at the store, and associates who didn't remember. And the associates who didn't remember would almost berate customers for, say, trying to bring in more than 6 items into the fitting room, and thought that everyone was kind of trying to pull a fast one. But really, the prospects, the people in the store, they just don't know, because they don't work there. They don't know you can only bring in 6, but and that's the difference. So that's what I mean by meet your prospects where they are. Again, this is just a quick aside. I know I got an eye on this time, but I went to an air show this weekend, which is not a type of thing that I would ordinarily go to, but a very dear friend of mine was in town, and he flies for the Canadian Snowboards, which is the Canadian version of the Blue Angels. But like I say, I'm not an air show aficionado. I have gone only ever because he's been in them. And when I went to the website for the air show to just find out where it even was taking place, there was all this information that was 100% written as if I had been going to air shows since I was a kid. I would obviously know where it was. There was a lot of information about how this year it's different. We're going to be in a drive-in situation, that type of thing. In dozens of pages, I could not find on this entire website where the air show just was. And maybe, and I felt dumb because I was like, okay, I assume it's at the airport. But I don't know. I'm not there's many fields. I understand the airplanes would have to be at the airport, but they fly. They could go anywhere. Where am I supposed to be? So that's the type of thing when I say meet your prospect where you are. Don't take for granted that they just know the things that you know, because you're deep in this industry. It's a complex industry. It's very unique. It's different than a lot of schooling that your prospects would have taken before. And, as professionals in the field, those things, and just keep in mind that the prospects don't, and be meeting them there. Center the prospects. That's back to that last slide we were talking about, using student-centered language. Think of the prospect as the hero of the story, as opposed to the school being the hero. Subheads. This is a really, really easy one. Just going through your pages and taking a look at the subheads on your page. And are they simple? Are you trying to squeeze in features into your subheads, or do the subhead should really just say, what information am I going to get in this section? And don't try to be sneaky and put in extra content there, because it's going to be counter to your motivations. Actually, it's going to cause some friction. Present the features and information in a way where they build on one another. So again, when we saw in that first version, that version A, when we talked about marketing yourself effectively, that's a great feature, but it was way too early on the page. We haven't got them there yet. We haven't had them picture themselves as a student. And marketing yourself, that's something you do as a professional. That's after you've gained all of these skills. So that's what I mean when I say present the features in a way where they build on one another. And then this last one here is very simple. Just use simple language. So that's that difference between that very long subhead I showed you and just you'll learn. That's how we invite people in there. That's all I have on these slides. And I do see that we're coming up about 5 minutes until our time to, I guess we will be literally kicked out. So I'm going to open it up now. If anyone has any questions for myself on the copy, I know we do have Sasha on the line. So if you have technical questions about testing, she is our ace. Yeah, if anyone wants to get in there, I'm happy to chat about any of the things we presented. I know we went, pretty quickly for a lot of information there.
Katie, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And it's a Sasha question, actually, if you're up for it, Sasha.
Sure.
Can you just share with us our thinking on A/B tests versus multivariate tests? Because it's evolved.
Great question.
Yeah.
Versus multivariate test.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes, testing, if you don't have, a ton of traffic, like sites like Amazon, for instance, where you can test like simple things like button color or a single CTA. And that is the case for, a lot of our clients. Instead of, just testing a single element and isolating it, which can give you very conclusive results, right? Like A or B1, it's black and white. It's not really an effective way to go about testing because you do need a ton of traffic for that kind of stuff. And it might take 6 months to get some sort of conclusive result. So what we do for a lot of clients who don't get a ton of traffic is, test a complete redesign or a partial redesign of a page in terms of copy, structure, layout, order of arguments, imagery, and kind of put it all together. And usually when you do those kind of complete redesign tests, you will see the needle move, like in some way. It might be in a negative way. And it's kind of a better way to go about it if you're looking for quicker results. And then from there, you can, use heat maps or further tests, which break down the elements that you were testing and kind of reverse engineer what was working to begin with. And also, just on a side note there, I wanted to just share with you guys, if you don't know, there is for these heat maps and scroll maps kind of thing, like if you don't know where to start, there's a free, very easy to use tool called Hotjar out there. And it's a great place just to kind of see what your current users are doing on your site or landing pages. Super easy to set up, and it can be very insightful.
Is it fair to say that marketing testing would be more similar to a social science than like a strict science, right? Like if you think about testing, the scientific method, right? There's very, very tight controls, and it's a very narrow thing being looked at. Where in social science experiments or like psychological tests, there's more interpretation that has to go about with the testing. Is that a fair kind of way to think about the model for testing?
I think so. I mean, it's a combination of the two, but I think it's definitely more of a social experiment. On that note, like, we have clients from they have all sorts of different schools, whether they be IT, tech, beauty schools, and what works for, one type of school doesn't work for the other type of school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do believe it's more like a social experiment.
Yeah. Would it be helpful to just show an example of a heat map? I've got one I could bring up if anyone hasn't seen it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
We got a minute and a half. So
Yes.
let me see if here we go. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Great. So this is an example of a heat map for a landing page. And what it's measuring is basically the amount of clicks, the amount of activity on the page, right? And so there's a couple of interesting things that come out of this. One, what gets clicks and engagement, what doesn't, and so you can see which program of interest got more clicks than which campus is close to you, right? So one, I don't know, maybe a way to think about it is if the program's the dominant, if the thing most likely to be clicked on, maybe we lead with program, right? That would be an insight that maybe could be garnered from this. up here in all our forms, we have these check boxes. The check boxes are just designed to like encourage engagement. We can see that the career prospects got the most clicks, and what got second most clicks was how much is tuition, start date, and financial aid, then start date were the orders. So maybe we, adjust the order of the box and stuff like that. And then as you scroll down, you can see where there was opportunity to click. So we're about to run out of time. Anyway, bye.
Thanks, Al. We'll see you on the other side.
Oh no, we've got 112 seconds.
Yeah, there's
Sorry.
still.
Oh,
We're still here. So the program, you kind of see where program of interest, which programs get more clicks, which don't. Again, things that are higher up on a page are more likely to get a result. Like more important things are able to be put higher up on the page. Anyway, Katie, Sasha, thank you both so much for this very interesting and enlightening talk. We hope it helped everybody, and stay tuned. In 10 minutes, we're going to share some super interesting things about Google. And
you gotta talk slower. You got 76 seconds to fill. Come on.
I know, yeah, I got ahead of myself there.
Drag it out.
Okay, and if anyone wants more information on this topic or would like to chat about testing in general, we'd be happy to have that talk later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.